Hi,
Right.
Lorenzo. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
We've had obviously a number of conversations recently on psychological safety, on mental health, and on performance. And following those conversations, we've had a number of questions coming through from our clients, which I would love to put forward to you today, starting with the first one, if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so starting off, the nice and easy one. How can a team member without managerial responsibilities contribute to creating and promoting a psychologically safe environment?
Okay. So if you are a team member and you're not the person that is managing the team, you can definitely still contribute to create psychological safety. Might be useful to keep in mind that there are 5 elements that contribute to the creation of a psychologically safe environment. The first one is transparency, openness, as in people are open to be spoken to, they're easy to be reached, collaboration, and then you have a desire to learn from mistakes, and then you have fairness. Okay, so let me say that again: fairness, transparency, desire to learn from mistake, openness, and collaboration. I would say that collaboration is one that, if you're a team member that is not a manager, you can definitely bring to the rest of the team. How do you create collaboration? Is by inviting people to help you. Fun enough. Okay, oftentimes we think that we create collaboration by offering our help, which is the case. But one thing that not many of us are very good at is asking people for help and bringing people into an opportunity to contribute to what we're doing. That's definitely something that you can do to create a psychologically safe environment. If you have a relationship with your own manager that allows you to do so, you can also every now and then provide your own manager with some feedback that can help him or her understanding what's the mood, the atmosphere of the rest of the team. That only if your relationship with your line manager allows for that kind of an input.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so for the second one, looking at things through a slightly different lens, the question is, if we find ourselves in an environment where we don't feel psychologically safe, what can we do to manage that situation?
So psychological safety goes with being able to communicate. Okay, so let me say, going into the opposite direction. When people feel psychologically unsafe, one of the most natural things to do is to go into our inner world, okay, and stop communicating, because we are afraid of communicating. So we keep everything bottled up, we keep everything inside. And that is quite dangerous over time, because that contributes to stress, okay, and that contributes to a whole bunch of mental issues that we don't want to deal with. So I would say number one thing to do is find someone that you can talk to. Could be a colleague, someone that you trust, and you wouldn't do that with the intention to complain necessarily or to speak badly about anybody, but just to give yourself an opportunity to express the discomfort that you're going through. Then number 2 is if you work for an organization that has an HR department that has created some internal mechanism for you to be able to express your discomfort, please use these situations. Most organizations nowadays, they understand the importance of people having the access to express their pain if they are in any difficult situation in a way that keeps them anonymous or that protects them from the act of being exposed, because people, once again, don't want to communicate when they don't feel psychologically safe. The thing to try to interrupt is to keep everything inside and to tell oneself that be patient, endure the pain, endure the situation, it'll pass. That is something that I would recommend not to do.
So it's all about finding somebody that you can trust to kind of communicate and get it from inside out there.
Indeed.
Okay, fantastic. So the next question is a little bit of a deepening to what we're starting to discuss here, which is on an individual level, what would you say is the most effective habit, behavior, or strategy to foster psychological safety for myself and those around me?
The most effective habit I can have individually to foster psychological safety. I would start by saying become very good at being self-aware. What I mean by being self-aware is become exceptionally good at understanding how your demeanor, your way of communicating, your way of behaving impacts other people. We don't oftentimes pay attention to the fact that the way in which we dress, the way in which we speak, the way in which we communicate with people online, but also in the day-to-day life, has an ongoing impact on the recipients at home, in the work environment, anywhere we go. Okay, so I would say the most effective habit that you can develop is the one of becoming extremely good at being self-aware with regard to my communication style, my attitudes, my way of speaking, my way of behaving. What do they create as an impact in someone else's mental well-being or in someone else's world, so to speak? If you become very good at that, quite automatically you become quite good at self-regulating, meaning finding ways to be received by others in a, I would say, in a balanced way. And that creates psychological safety. An environment composed by people that are very self-aware, usually it's an environment where people can communicate freely and there is a balanced level of, a healthy level of emotions.
So an awareness around how my way of being is received out there.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
What do I bring into the world when I'm around?
Yeah, what is my impact? Fantastic. Okay, great. The next question we have is, I think one that a lot of us can relate to, which is, how can I stop dwelling on a past work event that I feel negatively impacted my career, focusing on what I or my boss said or did, and then what mechanisms can I adopt to stay positive in the present and move past this experience?
Okay. All right. That's a long answer that this question would deserve. But let me say, whenever we experience any kind of failure in life, okay, either in a relationship or in a project or in any enterprise that we had in life that didn't go in the way we expected, okay, that provokes a certain amount of pain at an emotional level, not necessarily physical pain, but definitely psychological pain, emotional pain, sadness, sorrow, regret, resentments with regard to other people, guilty feelings, anxiety about the future because maybe I have lost self-confidence. There's a whole bunch of emotional, psychological repercussions when you and I go through failures, okay, which I think is what this person is referring to. One has to have the courage to do whatever it's needed by that specific individual to go through that pain, to go through these emotions and to digest them, so to speak, and to walk your way through them until they are sufficiently, until you are sufficiently able to be with the failures of the past without necessarily feeling too depressed about them or too anxious in the present. And that changes from person to person. One thing which is something not to do is to ignore the emotional charge and the psychological charge of past failures and putting a smile on our face because I have to be positive, because otherwise other people are going to think that I'm a downer, or okay, that doesn't work. That only is going to lead you to have psychosomatic disorders, okay, or stress-related disorders or anxiety disorders, okay? So, but bottom line is do whatever you need to do, including seeking for help, okay, going to a psychologist and doing some self-reflection work in order for you to come at peace I think that's an English expression, with the emotional charge that every failure, every unfulfilled expectation has on us in our lives.
Mm. And as you say, that takes a lot of courage to walk through that.
It does most of the times. Then once again, it's an individual journey. The thing that I feel confident I can say is do not ignore that emotional charge. Do whatever you need to do to be able to somehow embrace it without your present looking too horrible.
Yeah, fantastic. The next question feeds on very, very well from this one, which is how can we create a psychologically safe environment when we have a toxic boss who engages in systematic moral harassment?
See above, go to HR, find what are the internal mechanisms of your organization that allow to safeguard you from such harassment as it's been described here. Most organizations, they have these mechanisms in place. Do use them, okay? Nobody can endure being harassed at work over a long period of time without having some psychological damage. So don't endure that pain. If you work for a decent organization, you can find mechanisms to speak to HR and bring that problem to the attention of someone that can do something about it.
Yeah. And linked to that, the next question is when a lack of psychological safety comes from the top down, so maybe not necessarily your boss, but above the boss, how can we help to map and to change the environment?
There is this notion of microenvironments and mega environments. Okay, a microenvironment is a small environment, as the word says it. Like it's me, my direct reports, if I'm a manager, or my colleagues. Okay, the environment composed by the people that I can directly have a conversation with. Okay, and that's something that I can influence directly. Then there might be a mega environment, meaning probably, I don't know, the 10 layers above me in the organization. If I work for a huge international company, executives that I never see and never speak, the thing that I can do is to focus on the micro environment that I can influence. Okay, and once I have influenced that one, try to find stakeholders and allies and people that can help me to influence the next circle around my micro environment until I can find ways to influence the higher spheres. Okay. One thing to be quite clear about is that the micro environment that I belong to has a much bigger impact than the mega environment that I am a part of. Okay, because I could be in an organization that is very pushy, so to speak, that brings a lot of pressure on people generally, like at the very high level. That's the culture of the board of directors or the senior managers. But if my micro environment somehow is constituted by people that have a correct level of self-awareness, auto-regulation, they can somehow deal powerfully with the existing culture in the mega environment and create some sort of a positive bubble. By positive, I don't mean stupidly positive, but a healthy bubble. It's like the kids in a healthy family that lives in a hyper-capitalistic society. Well, these kids are still going to grow inside of a healthy environment. And that's why micro environments are the things to focus on if you belong to a very large organization.
Yeah, fantastic. The next question relates really to the people, as you describe, who are in that pushy environment. And it says, what should you do if you are already experiencing burnout with both physical and mental difficulties?
Take a break immediately. Take time off if you can. Take sick leave. Okay? Burnout, if not treated, can only go worse. And the worse it gets, the more difficult it is to get out of it. At some point, you will need to go to a sleeping clinic or to go to truly see a clinician, because you're gonna suffer from major depressive disorder, chronic stress, so forth and so on. So if you're already feeling some level of burnout, stop, take a break, take sick leave, take vacation day. Don't think that it'll go away, because burnout doesn't go away unless it's treated. It's a condition. It's something that requires to be attended to. It doesn't go away as a temporary headache. That's not the case.
So it's time to say stop and take the time for yourself.
You have to stop, have to take a break. Yeah.
Yeah. Our bodies have an interesting way of telling us when it's time as well.
Definitely, but also our minds. Like when you have a level of fatigue that doesn't allow you to focus, even if you slept 8 hours last night, when you lose patience easily with people, when you lose your sense of humor, when you find yourself having over-exaggerated emotional reactions for small things in life, time to take a break.
Yeah. Those are usually good symptoms. Yeah. All right. Perfect. Thank you. So we're shifting gears a little bit. The next question I have for you is, when we are trying to be interested and curious about people, how can we identify if we're invading people's privacy? Like, what are the boundaries that we need to set with that? And how can they vary by personality, culture, age, etc.?
Right. I understand the question. Probably this is coming from somewhere in a webinar, me speaking about the fact that as a manager, one of the best things that you can do is to be interested in your people and being curious about them. And rightfully, someone says, well, how far can I go until my curiosity is perceived as you're just a weirdo that is intruding my life? Well, that's the sign. Okay, you can go as far as the background of relationship that you have with that person allows you to go. Okay, so obviously you have once again to be very aware of the cultural boundaries of the people that you're speaking with. To be curious doesn't mean that I have to know the facts of your private life. It's about being curious around why people do things the way they do. So if you're working for me and you send me a report or an email that I don't understand or that doesn't meet the expectations that I had, to be curious from that respect, that means I want to understand why you wrote it that way. It doesn't mean that I want to know what school did you go through when you were 18, or at what age did you learn to ride a bike. No. Okay, so it's curious about why people do what they do in such a way that it allows you to understand how they work, and therefore you can have a dialogue with them about it. The opposite of being curious is to be biased. I know that Sophie did that way because she's lazy. She doesn't like to put the effort. Okay, that's the opposite of being curious. But I don't need to ask you questions about your private life. That's, again, be aware of the boundaries that people are expecting for you to have with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And does people's personality and their age come in? I know you spoke about culture, but personality and age, does that come into the question?
In terms of what people perceive to be strange or not, or yes, but generally, I would say that what makes someone feel invaded is when you're asking them questions that the level of relationship that you have with them does not support. Doesn't really matter the age of the personality. I can be talking with someone very extroverted and coming from a very warm culture that could be a Latin American one or an Italian one. But if I'm going to ask questions to that person that I'm not supposed to ask because I'm nobody for that person, even if he's an Italian and very warm, he's going to tell you, hey, what do you want? Who are you? Go away. Yeah. So it's a matter of being sensitive. Again, I would say it's a curiosity that has to do with wanting to understand why people do what they do, not knowing things about their private lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of what age they are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So shifting into lifestyle a little bit, there's an interesting question here, which is, are there any foods that promote positive emotions? And what about sports?
All right. Well, sport, let me start with the easy one. Sport, definitely. Okay. I would say there are two main activities, both for free, that promote health, mental health, and not only mental health, but definitely mental health. Sleep well and stay outdoor as much as you can. These are the two things which works the best for our brain. Sleeping is by far the number one. If you have sleeping problems, do whatever you need to do to regulate your sleeping patterns and sleep well at night. And then the second one is to do outdoor activities. We thrive being outdoor, being exposed to sunlight, being exposed to the elements of good weather and bad weather. Good weather is usually nicer, but that's very good for our brain cells, for our mental balance. Sport definitely, but don't exaggerate. Okay, physical activity done in a sport setting, meaning like running with a particular goal or doing fitness with a particular goal, they help the production of dopamine. Obviously, they cannot compensate for something else. Okay, you don't want to do sport 12 hours a day unless you're a professional, because I don't know, you can't find a meaning to life. Now, sport doesn't do that. Okay, sufficient amount of sport to keep the production of dopamine going in the brain, it's a very good idea. Food. There are some types of food which are better in the right quantities. Things about food, it's all about quantities, okay? The right quantity. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But for example, if you need a boost of energy, dark chocolate is very good for your brain. Doesn't matter the season, okay? Watch out, don't exaggerate. But dark chocolate is very good. Little caffeine, but not too much, because that provokes anxiety. So I'm not an expert in diets, okay? But I would say that everything that has to do with alcohol and smoking, very bad for the brain, okay? Now, okay, I just received a bottle of Prosecco at home, so I'm not gonna complain about that. But quantity is king there in terms of alcohol produce brain cells damage, and smoking produce the same kind of damage to other parts of the body, obviously. So these are two habits that we have to be careful about.
Brilliant, brilliant. We've got a handful more questions. The next one
let's do two more.
Should we do two more?
Two more.
Okay, perfect. So the next one says, between 2019 and 2021, surveys in my organization showed a 4-fold increase in employees with significant anxiety symptoms.
Yes.
So ×4, and 2.5-fold increase in those with severe depression symptoms.
Yes.
The COVID crisis was blamed at the time. However, in 2023, the numbers stayed at the same level. So is the COVID effect still persisting today in your experience?
Yes.
Or should we be looking at causes elsewhere, such as working conditions?
Well, COVID is not the only cause, but definitely the pandemic caused a spike into mood disorders such as depression and anxiety. Now, it's going to take a while before society globally goes back to a low, if we're ever going to go back to a lower level of anxiety disorder, depression disorders, eating disorders. Our societies, especially Europe, big parts of Asia, Americas, they're not necessarily designed to provide a balanced lifestyle. Definitely the pandemic didn't help, but to recover from something like a depression or to cure an anxiety disorder doesn't take a couple of weeks. It takes months, probably years, to go back to a good mental balance. Okay, so that's why these kind of disorders, it's much easier to prevent them than to cure them. So definitely COVID didn't help, but maybe it helped a little bit to bring to people's attention this idea that to have a balanced lifestyle is a big component of the health equation in general in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, out of the handful I have left, let me choose.
Last one.
Last one. All right, I'm going to go with this one because I'm curious your reply. So, can psychological safety be excessive and prevent people from stepping out of their comfort zones?
No, I wouldn't say that. Okay? Psychological safety is not about being comfortable, quite the opposite. Psychological safety is the prerequisite for people to step out their comfort zone. If in order to step out from my comfort zone, I risk to be punished, I'm gonna stay inside like the turtle does. Okay, I'm gonna stay inside my little home. To step outside my comfort zone doesn't mean that I have to hurt myself. Okay, it means that I'm willing to take risk and to explore the unknown. Okay, if I know that as soon as I get out of the house, someone is going to hurt me, I'm going to stay inside. So I would say that's quite the opposite. Psychological safety can promote people stepping out their comfort zone. That's why there is a strong correlation between psychological safety, learning, creativity, innovation, etc., etc. That one of the best way in which dictatorships manage people is by fear. And dictatorships are not very known to create an environment of innovation and creative thinking. Usually, for example, artistic expression during the time of fascism or other things tends to go down because people need to feel psychologically safe in order to step out their comfort zone and experiment generally in life.
Yeah, makes sense. Like we're a lot more likely to stay inside our shell when we are, fearful of the outside environment.
Yeah, to step outside of our comfort zone doesn't mean that I have to hurt myself.
Okay, fantastic. Right. Well, I think that's a lovely note for us to end on. Thank you so much for your time, for answering all of these questions.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for asking all these great questions. And thank you to the people that have asked these questions. See you all soon.
Thank you for submitting them. All right, thanks. Bye.